At the Culture Company, we try to experiment with new partnerships, with new ways of working, with new experiences. And for us, this really was an experiment in putting an educational institution together with an artist and with ourselves to work on participation, engagement, art making and research. And I think for everybody involved, it was a great experiment and experience of working together and trying something new.
People will often think that the law is black and white, two ends of a spectrum. It's either black or it's white. But in reality, there's lots of different colour in between those two. The Creative Residency for me was about bringing out that colour that's in between that black and that white. And in the law, we look for certainty. We look for answers. We want to be in control of our environment. Creativity often pushes us beyond that and makes us look at things where we're not always too comfortable. We don't know what the answers are. We don't know what to expect from the process, but always it comes out good. And for me, the Creative Residency was about starting something that people didn't know where it would finish up and seeing how would they respond and react to it at the end.
Yeah, when I first came here, it was a very exciting, kind of active law school, and I was able to access the library and the archive. And in those initial months, I was living on site in the King's Inn, and I could see the daily workings of the building and the daily workings of, like, this is the space where law begins, where that kind of journey to be a lawyer begins, and you know, what kind of atmosphere is here. Obviously this building has such a huge impact on the kind of ways people experience those initial stages of the law. So I was really influenced by the building itself and the materials in this building, and I think that really informed what I made in the end.
Within King's Inns, when you look at art and the law, it's you look on the walls, there's a very fixed idea of a portrait of Chief Justice, Lord Chancellors, and this gave us an opportunity to explore what other, whether it was poetry, whether it was drama, whether it was a play, whether it was writing, performance piece, all of those things were thrown out and explored, and it was areas that we hadn't thought of before.
The initial ideas were really to think about something that was more performatively embedded with the building. But very quickly, as 2020 began, and this like unexpected and unprecedented kind of moment happened, it was very much being thrown into a moment of history, actually, and like the history of this building, you know. I mean, it's quite amazing that, like, while the King's Inn was empty for the whole of lockdown, that there was an artist living in the building. It's just such a unique kind of weird thing that happened to this building during that time. So during that time stood still, and I spent a lot of time like walking through the park because the gates were closed and it was so quiet. I was really drawn to the statues, whereas previously I'd been really like engaged with the building and the activities of the building. When all of that stopped, I just looked at the statues in the garden and realised that the three faiths, commerce, industry and Hibernia, one of them was missing a left arm, and that just really struck me in this kind of moment of stillness of, like, that's a story that I want to engage with. I want to think about what would happen if we replaced that tool, that missing left arm tool, and what would that tool be? What would a tool of the law be from a feminist perspective?
We're delighted that Jessie Jones chose to make a permanent art piece as part of this residency. It's her first, and it is exciting that forever it will live up in King's Inns at the top of our road from where we have our offices. And with that, we are sharing this experience with people who will be walking through King's Inns, whether they're visiting, whether they're lecturing, attending or dining. And it's really exciting for us to kind of contribute back into the city with something that can live permanently.
I think the value was in that it opened up our way of thinking. It opened up King's Inns to a different and diverse community. It got people who wouldn't normally work together. It got them to work together and gave that opportunity for people to meet people that they wouldn't have met before. I will repeat the Creative Residency. The benchers will repeat it as well because they thought it really brought a lot of value to it. So yes, looking forward to the next one.
We are delighted to find out really that through this experience there will be a long-lasting relationship between the institution of King's Inns and the artist Jessie Jones, but also with her artwork, because it is now a permanent artwork and a permanent fixture in the institution, and everybody will be able to see it as they walk through the building or past the sculpture. It's important as the culture company that we embed these kind of experiences and relationships and partnerships into the future. So we'd be very excited that King's Inns would have future relationships not only with artists but with culture, and Jessie Jones similarly, and all of these other people who will walk through King's Inns and see that work.